Bengals have invested so much into this defensive line. We need to see guys like Myles Murphy step up. Right, you can show me all the training camp videos and all the off-season workout of him hitting pads and all that means jack shit to me. We need to see it actually show up on game film. And guess what, Zac Taylor? Hopefully you get your head out of your ass a little bit, and maybe we see these guys in the preseason a little bit, just because it's very clear they need them. That is when you figure out what you got. Yeah. Right? You can assume all you want when you're going up against the same guys day in and day out. But at some point, you need to see what these guys look like against real levels of competition. Put Myles Murphy out there. You know what Trey Hendrickson is. You know, I mean, maybe you want to put Trey Hendrickson out there for a drive to make sure he didn't lose a step. But you know what he is. Put Myles Murphy out there. Put Shamar Stewart out there. Put Joseph Ossai out there. Put them in compromising situations so that we can figure out how they deal with the pressure. That is where I'm at. But at the end of the day, the pressure needs to be on this defensive line unit from day one. You need to know what you have in these guys from day one. So that way, when you're in a big-time game in November, in December, you're not like, oh, Trey Hendrickson has played so many snaps. Oh, he's clearly hurting. We need to put him back out there. No. You need to make sure you play these guys a significant amount of snaps so you know what you got. And you also rotate them in throughout the season. So that way, when they're finally getting in there, during these big spots against the Pittsburgh Steelers on Thursday Night Football, against the Baltimore Ravens in Baltimore, it's not like they're a deer in headlights. That needs to be done with. This program, this staff has been in place for far too long to still be operating like a first or second year group. Play your starters, play your guys in the preseason, let them knock off the rust, and don't tell me that our players don't have rust, because clearly the last couple of seasons have proven that they have had rust. So I've been kind of holding my tongue, biting my tongue, waiting patiently to say what I needed to say, and that's where I stand on everything. Evan, what are your thoughts?
Obviously, another big kind of scenario right now is the slow starts, right? And I want to bring this back to what Damian Lillard said, I believe, after a 61-point game, a sample that J. Cole used when he's talking about, hey, the work that went into that performance, it wasn't because I was so great tonight. It's because I was so great every day of the offseason, right? It's because of how I worked and how I trained in the offseason. And I'd love to sit here and say, hey, first of all, even though I'm going to sit here and say this is not going to solve all the problems, I credit the Bengals for trying to do something different, right? Because you say, we haven't played enough in the preseason. We're going to do that. We're going to make a change. We're going to play more drives. We're going to get them more involved. Okay. At least you're trying something different. My counter is, I think what you do every day in OTAs and in training camp matters for the season so much more than an extra 15 or 30 snaps in the preseason against basic vanilla shell cover 3. I just, they can say, hey, we wanted to get back out there. It's nice to get on the field. It's good to get hit once or twice. But how you practice, whether that's the intensity that you practice with, whether that's doing drills that translate more to in-game scenarios, whether that's, hey, we're pretty fucking good in between the 20s. We're pretty great in the intermediate spots. Maybe we dedicate more of our practice time to short yardage scenarios where we fucking sucked for 5 years. Yeah. Maybe we practice a lot more in those red zone scenarios. Maybe we practice a lot more of these high leverage situations. So when the game is on the line for the offense or the defense, we're ready and we're prepared in that moment, because those moments are going to come. I see that as being a much more valuable way of changing your approach to address a slow start than just saying, I encourage them to make a change in doing the preseason thing, but I don't want them to just say, hey, look, we're going to play them 15 to 20 snaps more in the preseason, and that's going to solve our problems, and there we go. Like, we're good. It doesn't sound like that's what they're doing, but I don't want to just write them off as, hey, problem solved. They're going to play more in the preseason. I don't think that extra drive or two, when no one's really doing anything exotic, is going to prepare you that much more than 2 months of more specialized or more intensive training.
And I think in general, just going off the whole preseason and the practice and anything, and, you know, as you all know, we're all coaching football, and that's kind of something we're going through right now. And it's like it opens up the importance of practice and all this stuff so much more. We're trying to get the kids to buy into practice, into these drills, because like Evan said, what they do right now is going to translate so much more than what they do in scrimmages and all this stuff. But it's hard to get them to realize it. And, you know, like Evan said, the Bengals are trying to do so many different things, but, you know, being bought into the offseason and doing all these little things feels so annoying and feels, you know, just whatever it makes you feel. But it is so important, you know, as we're watching every rep, we're doing all these things, we're putting them in situations to test this, and that. Like, it's a controlled environment. You know, the scrimmages only do so much. A preseason only does so much for you. But these off seasons, the OTAs, you know, the joint practice and stuff, like they're so valuable. And, you know, I think Jamar Chase even kind of talked about it the other day when he talked about he doesn't really care to play in the preseason. He's not a guy that gets amped up to play in the preseason. He's a guy that, you know, when it matters most, he's ready to go. And it's going to be different for everybody. But this is a time where you figure all that out. And, you know, you got to keep trying and figuring out what works for everybody. And if it's playing this person more in the preseason, not playing that person, you got to have that conversation. You got to figure it out together as a team and just, you know, kind of continue to go on and fully buy into the offseason.